All right, here we go again. Said I would probably come back on tonight, Sunday night, and I ended up doing so later than I normally would have. Again, I do apologize for that. The Thursday stream, the normal weekly one, will be at the usual time, and all the various monthly data release videos will come at random like they always do. The OPEC oil production levels one should be the next one on probably Tuesday. But anyways, go into the control room here now that everything's already properly set up. I apologize again for the off timing and the kind of semi randomness of these, but things have not been on a normal setting of sorts. Uh, Live chat. Okay, everything is already set. We are live, supposedly. Yes, we are. Okay. So things are going kind of rapidly, which is part of the reason why I'm doing more of these, way more than I normally would. This is going to be another short one, just to cover more recent things that have further developed. This is with audio. Wait for it to unfreeze, and we're good. Okay, so as I was saying, just because stuff has been moving quite rapidly, and I'll specify things after retweeting these homeless cats. Please donate money to them instead of me. Go to bookmarks where we'll walk through stuff, including Iranian forces are actually starting to desert and abandon their posts in some cases. So it is moving rapidly. That could only end up being a small percentage, and they could instead hold together and things could go a different way. But have to throw in the commentary as things are developing. Hello, we got 1-7. Wow, this is fast. Well, this is the one thing that's probably going to draw people in the fastest now, isn't it? Okay, so I'm not even wasting time because it's already kind of late. So I want to run through this as fast as possible. So everybody knows, got this whole thing going on. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Ah ha 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 ha. So we are in day 4, and 2 streams ago, when I talked about the fact that this was likely about to start, literally 1 hour after ending the stream, it started. Israel has been doing uh, basic. It might as well be like on the hour, every other hour, big sorties, just bombing everything in sight across Iran. Now it is literally everything in sight. At first, it was just the nuclear program stuff, since those were the primary targets. They did take out of the 2 facilities where Iran converts the refined or enriched, uranium hexaoxide, I believe it is, into metallic uranium, actually smelts it into pure metal uranium. One of those facilities is in the west. Another one is for safety purposes, over in the east. Obviously, that one hasn't been touched yet. Uh, the IDF did already bomb the one that's over in the western portion. That one is no longer usable, and you would need, the facility to melt the oxide into actual metallic uranium to then make into hollow spheres around a inner sphere of plutonium, usually, to actually make the triggering mechanism for a nuclear weapon. So the actual possibility of making a nuclear weapon, unless they already did make a few beforehand, which I would honestly put it at a 50-50 that they probably did, but we won't find that out until some later date. So half that possibility has been knocked out, and the other half is in a facility over there that has not yet been hit. They also hit one of the primary enrichment facilities, one of the ones that's closer to the surface, and thus they only have to drop a few lighter bunker buster bombs on it, and that was enough to basically guarantee that the facility caved in underground. And also remember, on the surface, you have the power plant and everything, since you need to be able to vent all that exhaust and everything. and you have all the electrical infrastructure for that on the surface. So all of that was also destroyed. So that particular facility wouldn't be able to operate anymore, anyways. There's the other one that is a unspecified depth underground underneath a mountain range somewhere around here. That is the one that Israel cannot get by itself. However, they might not be by themselves for that long because, oops, we go out here, and I'll show you the tracking maps for these in a second. We have directed one of our carrier strike groups to move from the Philippines over there. The UK has one of theirs pulling around, coming up there, and we have another one coming in right now. So that is 3 aircraft carriers and associated naval vessels, plus the associated naval vessels and air power we already have in the Persian Gulf region on their way at the moment. And right as of now, there is quite a decent in the air movement of strategic airlifters, C-17s, C-5s, and everything, along with in air refuelers that are making their way across the Atlantic, heading towards the Middle East. We scroll down for the tracker on that. Yeah, this was that post was when the wave started, and it's gotten a bit bigger since then. So we are probably, as we most likely were going to end up getting involved with anyways, we're probably about to get involved. And also, the particular, like, publicly put forth reason is going to be that Iran has already attacked a few U.S. sites throughout Iraq, specifically with Shahed suicide drones, and a new one that we did not know that they had yet that has a much bigger payload on it, a bigger bomb. They have attacked a few U.S. sites in Iraq, so that's probably what's going to be put forth as the actual reason. The real reason, not the like publicly stated reason. The real reason is just because strategically we and a lot of other people just want Iran gone. The current Iran that exists want is it's more desirable to have them out of the geopolitical picture, and like replacing Saddam, it would be more desirable to have a stable, friendly government in power in Iran to guarantee that there is no potential cutting off of oil and gas resources to the outside world of their exports specifically. Not referring to the Strait of Hormuz stuff, they don't actually have the power to shut that down because their navy can be destroyed in literally less than 24 hours. We've done that before already. But we want to, from U.S. and friends strategic decision making standpoint, Israel just wants the current regime in Iran gone, like for all reasons on the board. We specifically want them gone so that a economically collapsed Iran, just like an economically collapsed Iraq, will have a decently lower oil consumption level domestically. Say, like, cross out the 2, and maybe they'll only consume like 1 for a few years. Maybe they'll climb back up towards 1.5, but they'll stay closer to 1. And thus, more of their oil and probably gas too at some point will be available to the broader market at large, and they will not be governed by a regime that could constantly threaten to cut off exports as like some means of leverage against us and the rest of the outside world. That's the reason, the real underlying reason that we want Iraq or want Iran out of the picture. It's also a similar reason to 2003 why we wanted Iraq's former regime out of the picture. But the attacks on U.S. bases in the last 24 hours is probably going to be used as the publicly stated reason for why we get involved. Also, the other indicators that even if it was only Israel acting, even if it was just Israel, it is still a regime change operation because things did not stop after taking out those nuclear sites. Okay, this has gone on and on and on, and it is spreading to destruction of literally everything. Okay, they've already struck their critical government buildings. They've killed a huge slew of their government officials, both elected and unelected. They've wiped out their military leadership. Apart from taking out the nuke sites, they've started hitting Iran's oil and gas infrastructure. Not too much just yet, but that's going to change. They've hit the domestic refineries and storage depots around Tehran. They have hit Iran's natural gas production infrastructure down on the Persian Gulf. They have also started moving onwards from just hitting the nuclear sites and hitting missile launchers in the mountains that are, about to start firing stuff at Israel. They've also started just doing what they did in Syria and hitting every regular Iranian military base and just like hitting literally everything that the regime has available to it. And beyond that, they have also started just bombing stuff, like whatever is, presentable as a target. They've started bombing industrial sites, metal refineries, factories, uh, computer computer science labs. They've literally started bombing everything. When you start destroying everything, you only do that if you want things within said country to abyssally collapse on rapid order. And if you want things to abyssally collapse on rapid order, that's because you intend for the governance of that country to change hands. And, forcing drastic conditions is the primary, quickest way to induce that. Now, Iran has continued firing barrages of retaliatory ballistic missiles at Israel. A lot of them have hit Tel Aviv and the surrounding metro area, which, is, I forgot how much is it, like half of Israel's population lives in like the area around Tel Aviv or something. So that's the biggest target. They've knocked down a number of apartment high rises, and their strategic targets that they've been going after. I'm not going to zoom all the way in, but their strategic targets that they've been going after within Israel have been primarily the air defense systems, the anti-ballistic missile, anti-cruise missile, launcher trucks, launcher batteries on the ground. And unlike Russia, I know I keep making that joke, but I'm sorry, Russia, you're never living that down. Iran actually has hit things that it intended to hit. They have actually taken out a number of air defense systems. Unspecified at the moment, Israel's not going to publicly state those numbers, but based on video, it looks like 6 plus 80 systems or 80 or concentrated batteries, I guess, because there's like there's like the control truck, I assume, unless the operators are controlling it from like off-site somewhere else. And then there's like 3 or 4 actual launchers in like, say, a big parking lot somewhere is what the setup usually is. Because when you watch like them firing, you can see multiple spots firing stuff into the air, but they're all really close together, like in the same parking lot. So Iran has actually been hitting stuff, but the only strategic things they've been hitting are the air defense systems, of which they would be targeting those obviously because they want more of their stuff to be able to make it through. However, they have not hit or taken out anywhere near enough of them to actually make that like a decent reality. And they also just recently hit the oil refinery in Haifa. which is going to cause domestic, fuel constraint in Israel, obviously. And I think yeah, we have those here. And yeah, you can see them incoming and you can see others incoming somewhere. And if I skip past the impact moment, that is not TOS. So there you go. Afterwards, two sites on the refinery burning. There is a picture from the refinery burning. There's a closer picture from the refinery site burning. There's a picture of the refinery site burning with some really horrible Instagram filter placed over it for some reason. And here's a bunch of stuff of the missiles actually being launched in the barrages. That was one set. This was a different set. I really wish Twitter's AI was like as smart as YouTube's and would actually auto mute every next thing like YouTube does after it detects that I muted one video. And there was another set, and here was one launcher was supposed to launch this ballistic missile, and its crew just abandoned it and have deserted their post. So, not sure to what scale yet, but some level of desertion has begun amongst the Iranian military personnel. Again, can't be sure of the scale. I'll take another like few days to like start seeing if that's at a major level or not. But some level of that has already begun, and we have seen that before. If you guys remember, 20 years ago, and before that, 30 years ago, we have seen that before in a very nearby nation to Iran. So uh, that pattern might be repeating itself. Let me scroll down to get to the. There's some of the aftermath from some of the ballistic missiles that hit apartment complexes in Tel Aviv that I mentioned. Where's the? This is random Iranian citizens driving by a burning military base. Blah blah blah. Stuff about the drone attack on U.S. sites. This is Iranians fleeing Tehran. Huge chunk of the population is pouring out of the city, which means huge, chunk of functions and business and industry in and around the city is going to just abruptly stop as of tomorrow if all these people are leaving. Let me find the. Yep, there's the thing about the USS Nimitz is on its way. It's going to take it a few days to get there, but it's on its way. So, yeah, it looks like we're positioning ourselves to get ready for our role whenever that begins, and whatever that's going to be. But even if somehow I'm completely wrong about all that and it remains just Israel doing all this, regime change is still pretty clearly, I hope you can see the end goal of this. I really hope that's like beyond obvious because it is beyond obvious. All right, time to look at chat. uh, I mean, that depends. That depends on the not necessarily the accuracy of how many ballistic missiles Iran still has for that how much damage can they cause question. That depends not really on how many they still have. What it ultimately depends on is how many of the launch vehicles they still have functional. The specialized I'll draw random buttons on this. The specialized uh, launching telemetry computer missile carrying truck thing. Draw the big thing here, and I don't know, some rocket fire. Uh, really, these are the actual limiting factor, as there tends to be a lot less of the launch vehicles than any particular country has actual missiles. And hundreds of those have been taken out thus far in airstrikes by the IDF's Air Force. So we have had in the past we've had usually a relatively good estimate of their missile on hand numbers. Never entirely sure how many launcher vehicles they have, but I would be surprised if they have fewer than 1,000, though. So they probably still have several hundred more, but the issue now is going to be like getting those out of storage sites in like the mountains and bringing them out to uh, missile storage sites and actually loading them with missiles and launching those in time before they too get taken out with airstrikes. And also, you have to remember there's the desertion question now of at what point might more and more of those crews not even follow through on their orders because once they start realizing that every single one of their fellow crews that has gone to launch or has done a launch before they got bombed uh, just died and got bombed. At what point are you going to start seeing a rapidly increasing trend of the crews just not really showing up for it anymore? But as for how much can they do, assuming that they still have a fair number and they can still keep up these size of waves for like another few days, then what you've seen is what you're going to get, basically. If and also again, this is the primary reason. Remember why oil has not yet done a triple digit spike is Iran has still primarily just been firing stuff at Israel. They have not backed up their threat of attacking all the other Persian Gulf members' oil and gas infrastructure like they initially claimed they would. They have not done so. I'm going to assume probably because they think not doing that is what's going to keep us from coming in and getting involved, even though we're clearly going to do so anyways. So is Britain. France, maybe not in like attacking Iran, but France has been part of the like shield of trying to shield Israel from incoming attack. The U.S. and the UK are actually going to like get in on attacking Iran, and there's a fair chance, just because they hate them, that quietly Saudi Arabia might do so too. But if they keep just attacking Israel, if they only keep attacking Israel, then what you see is what you get. They're probably going to take down, a few more apartment buildings. Might see again, assuming this carries on for if their ability to keep launching these carries on for like another week or so. Might see another like I don't know dozen apartment buildings get brought down, and if they land some more successful hits on the Haifa refinery, that might go down completely, and you might see Israel's ability to domestically refine fuel get cut in half. In which case, they'll have to uh, up their imports of refined fuel. They already import all their oil, all their petroleum, but they do refine it domestically at domestic refineries. They might lose those. Iran might maybe switch off the Russia pedal and stop with the apartment building stuff. Maybe they'll back up like their other threat and they'll target power plants too. In which case, obviously, you then see rolling blackouts, and they'd have to Israel for at least a number of weeks, if not a couple months, would have to devise like a power rationing scheme of how much who can use and when who can use it before any power generation infrastructure that gets taken out is able to be repaired. Now, if Iran does decide to back up their threat and attack oil and gas infrastructure, then, as I said in previous streams, Iraq is the one who's probably going to take the most hits because our air defense anti missile shield predominantly is this setup right here. We do have stuff, a few like things in Iraq, but it's not at the capacity that we have throughout the rest of the Gulf. Although we could, you know, launch air sorties up into Iraq and intercept incoming stuff in the air via aircraft, as that's also part of how we've been deflecting stuff heading for Israel, at least some of it. So we could do that as well, but based on the rate of penetration of their attacks onto Israel, which is one of the densest air defense locales in the world at this point, uh, 10% or so, like between 5 and 10% would probably still get through. So, fair chance if they do that. Oil and gas infrastructure in Iraq would probably take a few hits. And again, it would depend on what section and where, so I cannot tell you what numbers would go down or for how long because I don't have psychic powers. I don't know what fields or pipelines in which of the Persian Gulf countries Iran would arbitrarily decide to target. And then again, I don't know how much really would get through and would impact on target. So that is completely a wait to see when it happens situation. Although uh, I had initially said before they started losing their launchers and losing missile sites, I had initially said that in their opening retaliation on the first wave after everything started, if they had opened up with immediately backing up that threat and targeting oil and gas infrastructure all over the place, then I felt there would probably have been a fair chance they could have taken out like 1 or 2 million barrels a day worth of stuff. However, they've probably blown past that chance because they have spent everything thus far missile wise, in terms of cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, they've spent everything on throwing waves at Israel. The only things they've sent to other places, mostly Iraq, have been the do a crude drone drawing, just the tail thing. That is way too big. I'm not going to try drawing a Shahed drone. Actually, no, wait, I forgot. The Shahed drone is the triangle. Shahed drone's just a triangle, and you have the cylindrical engine back here with the propeller. So from the side, I think the Shahed drone basically just would look like a pill then, in a 2D drawing at least. They've only been using drones for attacks on facilities in Iraq, most of which have been US facilities. The drones have been shot down, but the fact that they have attacked US facilities in Iraq is, like I said earlier, probably what's going to be used as the publicly given reason for us actually joining in, which we were almost certainly always going to, anyways, because of the actual underlying strategic reasons that I already gave of why strategically US plus associated friends want slash need Iran removed from the geopolitical picture, or at least this Iran, the Iran that currently exists. A new, not antagonistic Iran would then obviously be fine, as is the replacement case when any acting power is trying to replace the government of a antagonistic semi-power or regional power somewhere. But that is the current ongoing setup and outlook of things. So yeah, this is definitely this is this is a regime change thing. This is what I thought was coming, but I did not see the whole October 7th thing springing up. I didn't predict that. Thus, I didn't see this whole Netanyahu spiraling out this whole thing to try to, make sure he gets to stay in power. I had initially assumed Iran's fall in the future would come from an inevitable war they were going to have with Turkey, as Turkey continues trying to re-expand its former Ottoman influence. But no, looks like Israel is beating them to the punch. I'm just going to draw an arrow instead of a fist because I can't draw. Israel definitely jumped the gun and has way ahead of time beaten Turkey to that punch in terms of timeline wise. So, what I expected to happen in the near future is happening. However, the reason and the cause is, or the cause and the actors involved are not the ones I initially assumed they would be. Wait, wait, favorite countries, countries, favorite countries. Wait. We're back to normal. We should be back to normal. So, that war is up and going. The the only two like big coming ones that we have are obviously the big show with China's upcoming invasion attempt on Taiwan. Unless, somehow I get surprised on this one too, and it's not China that invades Taiwan, but it's Cambodia. It's Cambodia that invades Taiwan. You know, since I already got oops, flip that. Since I already got surprised over here with this arrangement, with the actor taking out Iran not being the one that I thought it was going to be. Maybe China really isn't going to invade Taiwan. It's actually been Cambodia this whole time. And then the one other one that we know is coming is this one because of the whole water situation scenario that's I've already talked about in past streams and in past videos. You can go find those if you haven't already. You'll see everything. But that's going to be it for now then. So let me look at blah blah baseline. Uh Not really. No one's really throwing in. And that was to be expected. Also remember a lot of the other Muslim nations also want Iran gone as well, like especially Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia wants to pretend that they're like a major power player, and any members of their competition in the region that go is good for them. So a lot of them behind closed doors actually want it to happen. Publicly, they have to publicly state, obviously, to their like citizens that they don't want it to happen because their citizenry don't like Israel, obviously. But behind closed doors, their governments actually do want Iran to be destroyed because they don't want any more competition. And but in terms of like joining, no, not really. I mean, the Houthis in Yemen have been firing some stuff, but they were already firing stuff, so that doesn't really count. And everyone else has passed the various points of no return, where like if they were going to act, they would have acted because they put up the whole front of about if Israel enters Gaza, then we're going to do a big, huge global, like 2 billion Muslim Zerg rush against Israel. And that happened, and they did nothing. And they said if Israel invades Lebanon, then they were going to do the 2 billion Muslim Zerg rush. Israel invaded Lebanon, and they did nothing. Syria, they did nothing. Bombing the Houthis, they did nothing. That's not going to suddenly change now. Now, if Israel, say, randomly started just carpet bombing everyone, someone other than Gaza, basically, then things might tip back towards that scale. But the only thing that would probably really trigger the whole United Islamic World War thing would be if, for some reason, Israel just goes insane and destroys the primary Islamic holy building in Jerusalem, the Dome of the Rock, I think it's called, uh, which they might do. Yeah, I mean, Netanyahu's not the most sane individual, and they already made like random public statements in the last few years about wanting to build the third temple, anyways. So, which would kind of require destroying the Dome of the Rock. So, maybe they will do that for all I know, because everyone is losing their mind. That is the theme of the 2020s thus far, as we have seen. But that's going to be it then. So thank you everybody who showed up, and I will see you around next time.